we're going to go ahead and continue on this episode. We're in the book of Romans, and we're looking at chapter 3. We're in verse 13 right now. Let's go ahead and get into it. For the promise to Abraham and his offspring that he would be the heir of the world did not come through the law, but through righteousness of faith. That's something you should probably underline. For it is the adherents of the law who are to be heirs. Faith is null, and the promise is void. For the law brings wrath, but where there is no law, there is no transgression. Interesting. So what's he saying here? He says, well, if it's just those who follow the law, then, then it's not. We're not saved by faith. So he's making that argument. If we're going to follow the law, then, well, if that's how you're saved, following the Ten Commandments or doing this command or that command, well, it's null and void. But he says, no, that's not the case. It is by faith that we're saved. So, for the law brings what? Wrath. Where there is no law, there is no transgression. In other words, where there's no standard of morality, you just do whatever you want. I mean, a lot of people live like there's no standard of morality, but there is. There is a universal moral standard that is given by God, whether people want to recognize it or not. We have that innate sense of right and wrong within us, not because it's something that evolved or anything like that, or it's something that just came about that was a good idea, some humanistic value that just came out of nowhere. No, the reason we have an innate sense of right and wrong within us is because we were made in God's image, because there are moral universal absolutes, and reality is not subjective, it's objective. And so we have a right and a wrong, and God is the one who determines right and wrong, right? But before there was the law, before he laid out the commandments, people just kind of, they kind of went with their innate sense, right? But he's laying this out kind of in the Middle Bronze Age, right? And he's laying out this writing and all these commandments to show how bad people really are. So that's what the law does. When you look at what he's saying here, he's saying the law just shows us how bad we really are and that we deserve God's wrath. That's what the law does. It doesn't save us. Okay? It just makes us aware of how bad we really are. That is why it depends on faith, in order that the promise may rest on grace and be guaranteed to all his offspring, not only to the adherent of the law, but also to the one who shares the faith of Abraham, who is the father of us all. Remember, I just talked about that. As it is written, I have made you the father of many nations in the presence of God, in whom he believed, who gives life to the dead and calls into existence the things that do not exist. In hope he believed against hope that he should become the father of many nations, as he has been told, so shall your offspring be. He did not weaken in faith when he considered his own body, which was as good as dead, since he was about 100 years old, or when he considered the barrenness of Sarah's womb. No unbelief made him waver concerning the promise of God, but he grew strong in his faith, and he gave glory to God, fully convinced that God was able to do what he had promised. That is why faith was counted to him as righteousness, but the words was counted to him were not written for his sake alone, but for ours also. It will be counted to us who believe in him who raised from the dead Jesus our Lord, who was delivered up for our trespasses and raised for our justification. So right there, now he ties that. He ties that from Abraham, the faith of Abraham, to what Jesus has done. So all of us who believe in him, right, believe that God, Father, raised Jesus from the dead, we are saved by that. We are saved by faith in what he has done. So, is there anything else that we want to go over today? No, I think that's it for that. And we'll get into chapter 5. There's a lot to talk about in chapter 5. But this is what Jesus does. Jesus is the one who saves us from sin. It's not by following the law. It's not by following a bunch of rules. We're going to talk this weekend a little bit about other gospels that people uh, try to follow. And there is only one gospel, one true gospel, and that's faith in Jesus Christ is what saves us from the power of sin and death. God bless you guys. Have a great day, and we'll see you again in the next episode.